this is not a brand new product to the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our CRM, we didn't come up with this and go, this is something that's going to be cutting edge. These things exist.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys took a lot of time and looked at a lot of them. And you have kind of an odd corner in your house and you want a piece of furniture for it. And you know exactly what needs to go there. And you could go down to the local furniture store and find something that would probably fit in that corner. It's not going to be exactly what you want or serve exactly the right purpose, but it would probably work. And it'd be easier, it'd be quicker, it'd probably even be cheaper. Or you could go through the process of having it built, having it made custom for the area and get the full use out of it. I've seen the last year or so how hard this has been. Why has it been so valuable for that time and energy investment when we could have just went with a more generic product? Not that it wasn't a good product, it just was generic for us.
Yeah, this is something that we will own, that we have the autonomy over to create and to change and mold to how we see fit. And also it becomes an asset, which is a nice thing, obviously, to acquire assets as opposed to liabilities.
Sure. Welcome to the Secret VCG Experience, where we get to know the people behind Village Caregiving. We're your hosts, Aaron Gustin and Jeff Stevens. In this podcast, we have casual conversations with the individuals that make up VCG. Join us as we sit down to hear their stories, share a laugh, and learn about the importance of human connection in home care. So sit back, relax, and let's get to know the people of Village Caregiving. So hold on. So you guys were camping. Where were you camping at?
Prestonsburg,
Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Jenny Wiley is a state park. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who Jenny Wiley was?
I don't.
No history at all.
I see a sign for her grave. That's all I got.
Yeah. I got you.
I was actually going to look this up. Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's probably, you tell your story. So you guys are on a family camping trip.
Yep.
And did you have a camper, a tent?
Camper. So we rented a camper through an app called RV Share. And so this is the first time I went camping as a kid and stayed in an RV and all that good stuff. My wife has not done that. And we have a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old, and neither of them have done it. And so we were like, let's just rent a camper and see if we like it. And we were going with the Wellmans as well. And so we were down there having a great time, and we were getting ready to leave on Sunday morning. And our youngest, our 3-year-old, was still asleep in the camper. So she was the last one sleeping. And I was outside drinking coffee with Zach. And Caitlin, my wife, walks over to just say good morning and talk to us for like 5 minutes. And she's like, I'm going to go back to the camper, make sure Faye's okay. Well, during that 5 minutes, Faye had woken up and tried to get out of the camper.
Sure.
And she locked the door.
The little toggle. And now it's deadbolted from the inside.
Yes. And our 3-year-old's in the camper.
Yeah.
Crying, scared.
Please get me out of here.
One of those deals. And I'm like, and I know something is wrong, because as soon as Caitlin gets back to the camper, she's like, Ben. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I walk over to the camper, and she's like, Faye's locked in there. I was like, okay. I'm not going to panic. That's not going to help anything. And so I checked the door. Obviously, it's locked. I checked all the windows around the camper. There's none getting in.
Come to find out, it's a very secure unit.
I climbed on the roof.
You're up on the roof at this point,
because I know that there's sunlight in the bathroom. I was like, maybe there's a way to get in here somehow. I don't know. So I'm up there, don't see anything. I come back and I was like, okay, let me pull in this door. It's not going to be that strong of a lock. It is.
Yeah.
But the bottom, I could pull out a little bit, and our 3-year-old wasn't completely, she was scared and she was crying, but she didn't let fear completely consume her. So she wasn't laying on the ground, like just screaming and kicking the door. Like if that had happened,
we're knocking a window out.
Yeah. At that point, we're done. And remember, we rented this through RV Shares. So it's like Airbnb for campers.
Yeah, you've got a rental from Enterprise right now, and you're about to get on the banned list.
Oh, dude, I'm going to be blacklisted real quick.
This will be your first and only camping experience.
And I was able to pull that door out just a little bit on the bottom. And I was like, honey, Faye, I can see you. And that like calmed her down just a little bit. And I was like, I need you to play with that red lever. Just play with it. I did, because I actually didn't know, being on the outside, whether she needed to pull it up or down, just play with it. And she did that, and that camper door popped open. And I was just like, I couldn't even believe that she was standing. I was like, oh my God, she's right there.
Wow.
And so Caitlin just picked her up, and she was good to go. And I told my wife, I was like, she just turned, actually, she turns 3 August 4th. So I call her a 3-year-old still. But I told Caitlin, I was like, there's a chance that that's her very first memory in life.
It's going to be a core memory. Yeah. If you've watched Inside Out, that thing got locked into the core memories. Well, so outside of that, though, the camping experience, or is your family made for camping? Did you discover that now you guys are going to be recreational vehicle people?
Yeah, I would go back. I had a blast. It was great. I love the mountain bike. So where we stayed, they had nice mountain bike trails. We were able to take some good rides. Zach and I took a lot of rides. Rented a pontoon boat. Had a good time on the pontoon boat. My wife is maybe posh is a polite word to say.
Okay. Yeah, this recording's forever, so choose your words wisely, I'd recommend.
So she she was a trooper. She did a great job. I think she had fun. I think we'll do it again soon.
Good. The interesting part about camping is it's very easy to get into. For about $100,000, you can get a new fifth wheel. Another 70,000 or so, you can get a new dually to pull the fifth wheel with. And then you're probably just going to need another quick 10 or so thousand to get the accessories, the sewer drains, the bike rack, all the chairs.
Should I get a Jeep to pull as well behind
if you wanted to? That would complete it. You'll need to get the map with the magnets to fill in the states that you visit. And then just a good spot to keep it in the yard, because that's where it's going to stay most of the year.
So, yeah, I don't think you could really. I could justify buying one. So.
Yeah. Well, we did twice. We've done this twice.
I remember, like whenever I first met you, you were selling one.
Yeah, and then we went ahead and got another one. We enjoy camping. I'll tell you one of the coolest things. I'm curious if you had this experience there. Did you meet very many other campers? Like the
man, you know.
Yeah, you're super social.
You think I'm out there like knocking on the neighbors' doors to get to know?
Hey, I'm Ben. I'm your neighbor for the next 2 nights. There may be neighbors in your neighborhood that like, who's the guy in the white 4Runner? No, that was one thing when we would camp, especially when my son was younger. We didn't go a ton after my daughter was born. But we always enjoyed, we'd go with friends, and the state parks specifically always had great families. And it was always a neat place to pull into on a Thursday, and you're going to pull out on Sunday. But I'll tell you, as a male, I can't speak to females because Daniel never would do this. But the pressure of when you roll into the campground and you've got a spot in between a couple of lifelong camp folks, and you've got to back this rig in there. And they want to help. Everyone's outside. Everyone's saying, I've got this side over here. And you're trying to get that. It's a man test. Oh, you know what I mean? It's like that's why I think when people change their oil, they either go somewhere and have it done, or they do it in the privacy of their garage. You never see like a group of people get together and change their oil, because
judgment going on.
Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, I wouldn't do it like that. I wouldn't run that synthetic oil. But camping is that way. It's a lot of like, if you can't get the fire going, Gary's coming from across the street. Oh, I got this. And you're like, oh, please go home, Gary. All right. Quit dehumanizing me in front of my children.
I would say it was such a wholesome vacation. Mm-hmm. That's what I really enjoyed about it is, if I go to the beach, I don't know, it just seemed more relaxed and more wholesome.
Yeah.
I would say. Maybe I just drink too much at the beach.
Well, it forces you to interact a lot with your family, and you're sleeping in close quarters. And I'll be honest, most of the time that we would go, ours was set up for television. We would rarely set the television up. Sometimes we would, like right before bed, we'd put on a DVD for the kids because we didn't have internet and stuff there. And they would kind of watch that right before bed. But 98% of the time, it's pretty much electronic free. It was just, a lot of playing in the creek, climbing on the hills.
I loved it. I was building a dam with our oldest, and I was like, this is what I used to do as a kid all the time.
Yeah.
And it was very refreshing.
Yeah. Andy Hess has a hot take on camping. He said that
I don't even need to know what you're going to say. I know where this man's going to stand on this, but go ahead.
Yeah. I don't want to misquote him here, but my understanding that he has said several times in front of me has been that he is not interested in lowering his standard of living on a vacation. Yeah. So why would you go do something where you're going to struggle for basic amenities?
Yeah, sounds like my wife.
Yeah.
Take that compliment.
Yeah. I can't say he's wrong. It's just that, It's an interesting experience. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll do a company retreat one year at a campground and just see what happens.
Oh, that would be epic. That's what we should do.
Well, speaking of vacations and travel, a third of our ownership decided to run with the Bulls this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been following along on social media or not, but Jeff had messaged me. For those that are listening that aren't aware, Jeff and his wife Sarah traveled to Spain to do one of 9 days of running with the Bulls, and he was very lax about it. You've known Jeff a lot longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to him and Sarah before they left, and I was asking things like, what's your emergency backup plan if you two get separated during running the Bulls? And he's like, oh, we haven't even talked about it. And I'm like, well, Jeff, if the bull decides to make you go one way, you're definitely going that way. It's a 2,000-pound bull. Oh, well, the day before they went and watched a preview of it. And I'm not going to tell his story, but I do believe
preview.
Yeah. They, it's
probably from a balcony.
Yes, it takes place
nice
over 9 days.
Yeah.
And he messaged me afterwards and said, we're now down to a 50-50 chance that we do this. So they saw some brutality of those bulls and the humans running over people. And so it was legitimate in my conversation with him the day before the run there was some real, what I interpreted as fear and concern. So, but they survived. My understanding based off social media reports is that I think they are either on their way to London or have arrived in London. So I'm sure he'll be full of stories when he gets back. But I was thinking about that. Maybe not specifically running with the Bulls, but is there anything in your life that you would check the box off of, like, that most people would maybe find extreme, but you're like, I definitely want to do that at some point?
Nothing extreme like that pops out to me. I would say that, I used to run a cattle farm with my grandfather, so I've been charged by some pretty big steers before. And so I think I have my fill of that. Whenever you have a 1,200-pound steer running at you, you climb a fence pretty quickly.
You're going to want to move. Yeah.
But it's, no, I don't think I have anything like that. I would like to go to the Tour de France and watch it. That's going on right now. Go over and watch that bike race, but nothing crazy. Jeff, he's very adventurous.
Yeah. If they decided to do the Barbersville running with the Bulls out in the park, are you signing up for that? No.
I don't really have any intention or have any desire for that.
We were in the pool the other day, my daughter and I, and it was right at sunset, so that the sky was kind of illuminating. The sunset's over the western hills of Kentucky, along where I live, along the Ohio River. So we always have a really pretty sunset there. And the stars are kind of really starting to show there. And we see a satellite go by. It was I don't know if it's the space station or not, but it was pretty bright, and it's clearly not an airplane. And she saw it, and she at first thought it was a shooting star. And so we're kind of just floating in the pool, and we're looking at the sky, and we're talking. And her name's Emma, and I said, Emma, do you ever want to go to space? And she looked at me like real disgruntled. She's like, no, I'm scared of heights. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot you are scared of heights. I was like, but if you weren't scared of heights, would you want to go to space? And it was really neat to see that young mind kind of process the idea of that and what she would imagine that to be like. Now I'm looking at from the technical standpoint of, like, how would you have the training, the finances, but just that youthful imagination of, if we're leaving tomorrow for space, I may or may not go. And, that's something Danielle has always wanted to do. When she's grown up, she always wanted to be an astronaut. That was a thing of hers. And I never really thought a whole lot about space travel till the last couple of years, when it's become almost accessible to common man, is what it sounds like the trend that we're moving towards. And so I always thought, that's super interesting. I think given the opportunity, if it allowed in my lifetime, I would probably do it. But then this whole submersible thing happened, right? And they started comparing a lot to, it's actually safer to go to space than it is to the bottom of the ocean. And there was a lot of reports about the curiosity and what drives people to do those sorts of things, space travel and deep sea exploration. And what I realized pretty quickly was I'm not built for either one of those things. So I don't think that's going to be a passion I pursue. It was just clear that neither of those were important enough to me to risk that. So, but I was curious if you had that as well.
No. maybe when I was younger, I would have maybe liked to have swum with, get in a cage with some great whites, but I don't think so anymore.
Yeah. No.
Once you have kids, I think maybe you think of things that are bigger than you.
Yeah. What do you think the odds? You do a little bit of legal gambling. You'll take odds occasionally. What do you think the odds are in our lifetime that Jeff Stevens goes to space?
Oh, I would give him plus 200 odds on that.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a much better chance that he does than he doesn't. Yeah. So, okay. Interesting. Well, so right now, I mean,
let me say one thing real fast.
Okay.
I have, this is my second time being on this podcast.
That's true.
And I just want this to be clear that both times I've been notified, hey, will you jump on this podcast like 10 minutes before the podcast? Everybody else that's on here just crushes it. I was listening to Leanne's the other day. I was getting ready to start Austin's. And I was like, damn, man, I wish these guys would give me some heads up so I could at least sound decent.
Your schedule, you're always on the go. You're always predictable. So when we catch you around a microphone, we try to get you on the microphone. That's all that is.
Well, the podcasts have been fantastic. You all are crushing it. The one thing that really popped out to me, I really enjoyed Leanne's, and I've enjoyed everybody so far. Morgantown was fantastic. Leanne washes her jeans after every time she wears them, which is fascinating to me.
What was more fascinating, that she washes them after every use, or that Jeff doesn't ever wash them?
I actually have ink stains in my jeans right now. So.
Afterwards, I think maybe the listeners will appreciate this. Jeff was a little self-conscious.
Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast today. Again, it wasn't a lot of notice, but we, right now, and we don't have to get into a lot of like super specifics, but right now, a lot of things are happening on the business development side. You and I both work within the business development side of Village Caregiving. And right now it's a really busy season for us. We've got several offices that are launching right now. Corey Watson is out in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Is that correct?
That's right.
Launching that location. So we're up and running there. We have expanded our Michigan footprint recently. We have a second Tennessee operations that's coming online. We are expanding our Illinois operations that will cover part of Missouri as well. So it's a busy season, but in the middle of all of this is the CRM rollout. So, and we always knew this was going to be a thing. The company was going to keep growing and adding and multiplying and getting busier and busier. But also there had to come a point where a CRM system was going to be introduced. And there was never going to be a good time to do it, right? There was never going to be this time like, well, if we do it after September, this will, we knew that time. And the longer it waited, the bigger it was going to be, right? The rollout was going to have to be. So everyone just kind of put their heads down and plowed through this. And you've really taken the lead on the CRM. I remember what seems like not that long ago, but it's probably about a year ago. This was a dream or a thought.
It's actually been going on 16 months.
Has it been 16 months?
Yeah, it's been 16 months. We met with Dave Mancusi and his team with Red Lab. They're the developers of the CRM. So we met with them in the old offices before we acquired this office.
I see. Okay. And so 16 months ago, this idea starts to come onto paper, and then you start seeing kind of some samples of it, some beta testing of it in smaller segments. And then it was rolled out to a select group, like a target location, a couple pilot programs. And then it went into the first wave, right? And the first wave included, was it 8 offices?
Yep. Spot on, man.
Okay.
Wave 1 was 8 offices. We just wanted to start small, and just in case it ended up being a train wreck. Honestly, wave 1 went more smoothly than I anticipated. It was a great rollout. It has nothing to do with us. Dave and his team, Cole, they did a wonderful job developing the CRM and testing it before it went live. And then the branches that were part of wave 1, they just were very engaged in the process. They were excited to have it. And because they had the right energy put into rolling it out, it was completely successful. As we talked about in the regional meetings, the reason for the CRM is the analogy that I would use with the CRM. It's almost like we're reinforcing the trunk of the tree. If the trunk of the tree is not strong, then we can't continue to grow the limbs. And so this year's really been about reinforcing our foundation so we can continue to grow. At the beginning of the year, we talked about the cheetah paws, but right now I just feel like we're shoring up our foundation for even more growth to come. And the CRM is part of that reinforcement. I really truly believe that the CRM is going to impact all five pillars of the job. We've done a lot of interviews together. You've heard me say my spill. The director role consists of five pillars: customer service, employee engagement, outreach / marketing, compliance, and admin tasks. And I really feel that the CRM is going to touch all five of those pillars and make each of those pillars stronger so we can be more successful. Um, but yeah, I've been very happy with what we've seen so far. Because Wave One was so successful, the Wave Two of the rollout is going to consist of about 20 offices, which we started, I think, about a week ago.
Yeah.
Um, if this goes as successful as Wave One, then Wave Three will get all the other offices and we'll be fully up and running at that point.
Awesome. And if you had kind of a target date for when that maybe the whole company is up and running on that, is that sometime in October?
Yeah, don't hold it to me. Don't hold me to this, but I would say October.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're coming in before the end of the year with 100% of the company up and running in the CRM system.
Yeah. And, the phase one of this development was all about business development and processes. So we're going to eliminate the client list, the caregiver and client schedules, the scheduling issues template, also the timesheet calculation template. So we're just getting away from Excel and really shoring up our business practices and bringing consistency and efficiency across our footprint. Whereas phase two is going to be more compliance focused and helping us improve our quality of care. We actually just signed off on the development of that yesterday verbally. So Dave and his team will start working on that as soon as he gets back from vacation. The very phase two of the CRM, we should start to see it come to life within around 5 months.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So, a lot of times what we use the podcast platform for is an interactive newsletter, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is when we talk about the CRM, traditionally a company would probably outline this in a PDF document that's going to go out to all their employees, and people may or may not read through it and may have questions afterwards and not know who to ask or what. When it comes to the phase two, wave two, so the second group of offices that are going to be participating in this, how moldable is that program still? If Sarah in Montana sees it and is using it and doesn't love it or sees some recommendations or brings a real life experience from a previous employer, and it's like, hey, this would actually speed this process up. Is it still shapeable, moldable at this point? And are you guys eliciting comments back and feedback back from our team?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the beautiful thing about building it in-house, is that we have the autonomy over this. We can structure it in a way that we believe is best fit for our industry. Before deciding to develop the CRM internally, we met with ClearCare, multiple companies that specialize in CRMs for home care agencies like us, but none of them clicked. They didn't really fit what we were looking for. And the reason being is we're just a different agency than our competitors. And with that being said, part of the rollout process, we are asking the executive directors and their office members to jot down what are some things that are causing hurdles for you. What can we make smoother? Because Dave and Cole have been fantastic. So if we send them ideas, like they're pretty quick to update that enhancement and put it live.
Yeah.
Leanne had a billing enhancement that she wanted on the timesheet calculation template. Basically a consolidated timesheet. She was like, hey, what can I do? This will probably save me 20 hours a week in my work. And so they're in the process of developing that right now. And that's huge. I mean, you know how busy Leanne is. If we can shave off 20 hours a week, that's a huge win.
Well, you kind of brought up a good point when you were talking about this is not a brand new product to the market, right? Mm-hmm. Our CRM, we didn't come up with this and go, this is something that's going to be cutting edge. These things exist. Mm-hmm. And you guys took a lot of time and looked at a lot of them and interacted with a lot of the companies to try to figure out which one would make sense. And in some way, I explain this one way, and I'm curious if you agree with this. you have kind of an odd corner in your house and you want a piece of furniture for it, and you know exactly what needs to go there. And you could go down to the local furniture store and find something that would probably fit in that corner. It's not going to be exactly what you want or serve exactly the right purpose, but it would probably work, and it'd be easier, it'd be quicker, it'd probably even be cheaper. Or you could go through the process of having it built, having it made custom for the area, and get the full use out of it. And it's going to take more time, more money, but the end result is going to be a better result, right? And that's kind of what I've seen play out here at Village Caregiving. We could have went with a lesser product that didn't fit as well, probably still would get some of the job done, but it wasn't going to be exactly what would have set us up for future success. So you guys took the longer road, probably the more expensive road and the harder road for you. I've seen the last year or so how hard this has been. Why has it been so valuable for that time and energy investment when we could have just went with a more generic product? Not that it wasn't a good product, it just was generic for us.
Yeah. I really think it comes back to where we can customize it to fit who we are. It can be a part of our culture. But the CRM itself is, like you said, it's nothing special. We could have gone out and just plugged one in, but I don't think that's who we are as an organization. But yeah, it's been, as long as the executive directors are happy with it and they engage in it, it will make their processes and their life easier. But you have to put the effort into it to get it back. So,
well, the feedback that I've received, which is pretty, I think, unbiased, because I haven't been on a lot of the Zooms with people when they're rolling into it. I know Chris Atkins has been working a lot with you on these rollouts.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if you're the one that introduces it, sometimes the response may be a little bit different. The unbiased response I've got has been amazing. I mean, people are just like, it's like this thing's doing magic tricks, right? They're just like, I can't believe how easy it is, or the time that it shaves off my day.
That is, so the big wins, in my opinion, with the CRM, it's the time. Your payroll process is going to be cut in half. It's going to make payroll so much more efficient and better with less errors. And also the scheduling assist tool, the fact that it can tell you who you should be sending to the shift based on cost analysis, and also what their qualifications are and how they match up to what the client needs are. It's been a major win so far, just in phase one of this rollout. And as we continue to build it, I think it will become better and better. The other huge thing on this is, in my opinion, well, I won't even say it on a podcast, but this ends up being an asset as opposed to a liability for us. You know, if we're going through HHA exchange, we're just leasing this software, which would cost a lot of money. I won't give the exact details over 5 years how much that would cost, but this is something that we will own, that we have the autonomy over to create and to change and mold to how we see fit. And also it becomes an asset, which is a nice thing, obviously, to acquire assets as opposed to liabilities.
Sure. Awesome. Well, what I think is really cool about these processes that you're talking about, I remember months and months ago when hypothetically, it would save a lot of time on payroll. Hypothetically, it would help with scheduling. But now we're seeing it in real life. It's no longer a hypothetical. It will cut down on your payroll time. It will cut down on your scheduling task. So that's really awesome. It has been one of the more exciting things that we've got to see here. Sometimes building tech behind the scenes isn't quite as sexy as opening offices or rebranding things. But the time has come for this to step into I think the bright light of Village Caregiving, and it has really held up well. I've only heard positive. So thank you for your work on that. So if you had any kind of parting advice for the directors that are coming up into this wave that we're currently in, and then into the final wave, what's kind of the two big things that you would tell them, if there are two, as they get into this program?
Yeah. So there's one, especially for a larger office. If we're thinking about a Columbus, for example, just a massive office, or a Beckley, like they're going to have to put so much data into the CRM to even start to see the dividends it can pay. And that's unfortunate, but there's no workaround on that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to put all your client information into the CRM, all of your caregiver information. And if you're a large branch, like I just mentioned, Columbus and Beckley, that's a lot of work. And, we rolled this out in Ashland. Josh Yates was like, man, I don't even know how this thing's going to pay off, but he's seen the dividends that it pays now, because there is a heavy lift in the very beginning. So just to understand that, have the right mindset that you're going to have to put some work in up front, but once that work is complete, then you'll start to see the fruits of your labor.
Awesome. And then I think the thing that I keep hearing the most is the directors that find the most success with it is every day they're involved in it, right?
Yes.
It's a live
living,
thing.
breathing document.
Yeah.
You have to be living in there. That's where your work has to flow through, and everybody in your office has to be utilizing it. And that's the other good thing, as we all know, in Dropbox. You can't be in multiple documents and all of a sudden you're getting conflicted copies. But here, everybody can be in it working together. It brings the team together. It allows us to be more efficient. So.
Awesome. Well, Ben, man, we've made it to the end of the podcast. I appreciate you running by the office and doing this. Again, short notice. I apologize. The third time we have you on, though, we'll give you more notice. Okay?
I like it.
All right. Man, have a great one. Thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Secret VCG Experience. Hit subscribe on whatever platform you're streaming from and follow us on social media to be notified when the next episode is released. If you want to join the Village Caregiving team, head over to our website at www.villagecaregiving.com. See you next week.